Welcome. My name is John Hogan, and with me today is
Rick Mueller.
and we're here to discuss your Kilz primers. So with that said, Rick, what does a primer do?
Well, John, there's three main things we want our primers to do. We want them to either seal, we want to get good adhesion, and we want stain blocking. Now let's break that down. If you want a primer to give you only sealing properties, well, that won't cost you very much. Now, when we're working with a sealed surface, that simply makes our more expensive top coats go much further, and it gives us even color and a really nice gloss level.
That makes a lot of sense.
And now if you want to step up and get some adhesion properties in there, well, that's going to cost you a little bit more. And you know, it's because people are painting all kinds of things, John. Everything from kitchen cabinets, laminates, all sorts of tough surfaces to get paint to stick to. So we need a primer that has that adhesion quality in it to give us better grip for our top coat.
Okay.
And then finally, stain blocking. There's times that we need to block stains out so they won't bleed through to our top coat, because we're dealing with all kinds of messy stains. We've got water damage, smoke damage, pet stains. There's really a wide variety of stain problems that our customers deal with. So now we're going to step it up even more, and a stain blocking primer now is going to cost you a bit more. So you have three different price levels.
That makes a lot of sense, but really, how in the world do they do this?
Well, John, it's all about the resin, and the resin is the glue that's inside the can. Now, with a primer can, you got a lot more of this resin because adhesion is one of our properties that we need. And so that gives you a big difference between a paint and a primer. The paint has some resin in there, but the paint is more concerned about durability, scrubbability, those kinds of things. And it's actually there to protect that primer that's on the wall.
So when I've heard in the past from a customer in the store, I'm just going to use an old gallon of paint. It's probably that's in the garage. It's probably a flat paint. They're not even sure what it is half the time. Will that work as a primer coat?
Right, John. We actually hear that quite a bit, don't we? The old flat paint thing from the garage is something you never ever want to do because it won't work. That flat paint is not designed to seal up a surface, especially. So right from the start, it's not going to help you do anything. It really doesn't do anything for you.
So if I get this right, Rick, it's all really about the glues. And when you look at these water-based and these oil-based primers and just the different resins and the different price points, really, it's all about that specific job and what your customer is trying to really achieve.
That is correct.
So, Rick, that old gallon of flat paint just isn't going to work for that job for that customer.
No, not at all.
So, I guess what we're saying is all these different glues, these water-based, oil-based primers, they use different resins that are formulated to help out our customers really with whatever the needs are for that job, that problem solving. Is that correct?
Right, and that all depends on what their project is. That's why it's very important. We have to ask them, well, what are you trying to accomplish here? Do you just need to seal the surface? We got a primer for that. Well, do you need some adhesion properties in there? Well, we've got primers for that. Do you need stain blocking? Well, we have primers for that. And each of those are at different price points.
That makes a lot of sense to me, Rick. So, Rick, price really affects the quality of a paint and primer in one. And that story out there is getting very confusing, where you can see 1 gallon of a paint and primer at $70 and another one at $12 a gallon. And they're all claiming to be a paint and primer in one. One of the things I find is that $70 price point, that's probably a very good product. At the same time, why would you not buy a primer at that $20 price point that would do the same priming aspects as that $70 gallon of paint and primer in one?
Exactly, John. That's my thought, too. If you have a primer that's designed specifically to deal with the issue that this customer has, why would I not just use that?
Absolutely. And then you even get into the lower end, the $12, $15 gallon price point. That's even more confusing. What claims are they really making out there? Are they really good for, stain blocking? I don't know. What are your thoughts, Rick?
Well, with those, John, down at that price point, they will probably work very well if you're going over a very close or the same color that you're painting over. You've got no stains to deal with, and you're really dealing with kind of ideal situation where you're just kind of freshening up the walls. Those would probably work.
Absolutely. What about sheen? How important is sheen to the customer in that right color, that clean color when they're in your store? Isn't that kind of why they're even in the store?
Yeah, we've got these specialty primers that guarantee you're going to block out those bright colors. I've seen that in my own life, John, in my own houses. The kids wanted some nice bright colors on the walls. Well, they move out, go off to college. It's time to change those back. I'm not going to use a paint and primer in one to try and see if I can block those colors when I know there are specific primers designed to do exactly that. Block out bright colors, make the drastic color change. I can prime over that, let it dry, and then recoat, and I know it's going to work and it won't bleed through.
You're starting to sound like a professional painter. Would a professional painter use, do they use paint primer in one? What do they do out there?
Well, let me share something with you, John. I was talking with a contractor friend just recently. He was telling me about a house that he was working on that was full of graffiti inside. And I asked him, I said, well, you got the paint and primer in one. Do you use something like that? And he said, you know, Rick, some of these paints and primers work pretty well, but I know that a primer that's designed to block stains, it's going to work the first time, every time. Now, as a contractor, he said, time is money. I can't really take that chance, John. I've got to get this done. So I'm using the specialty primer, not using the paint primer in one.
And I understand that. That's very important. Also, when you're diving into other pieces like pet odors, severe water damage, paint primer in one, with my knowledge, really can struggle with severe water damage and also odors in general.
Right, and maybe those that are at that high-end price point, that $70 range, they might, but the key word right here is might. I'm going to go with the contractor mindset. I'm going to make sure it works, so I'm going to get the specialty primer to take care of issues like those pet odors or those severe water stains.
So what we're saying, everyone, is a paint primer in one, it has its place. But if we choose a specialty primer suited for that situation, we know that that project's going to just turn out perfect.
That's absolutely right, John. Well, John, there are customers that notice that some of the primers out there are water-based and some are oil-based.
Yeah, that's for a specific reason. My grandfather always taught me that you want to go opposite whatever the stain is.
Going opposite of what the stain is. Explain that.
So when you have a water-based stain, a good recommendation is to go with an oil-based primer to lock in that stain so you don't reactivate it. Or if you have an oil-based stain, some oily on the walls or on your ceilings, to go opposite of that and use a water-based primer. A few examples of that, a water stain like nicotine or even just a simple nasty water stain, if you were to put a water-based primer over that, you could easily reactivate that stain and it'll bleed back through. But then when it comes to, some oil stains out there, things like grease, an ink pen, especially like in a bathroom, hairspray or any hair products that have a tendency to build up, you would recommend a water-based primer.
Okay, so do we need to stick with that rule of thumb?
Well, to be fair with you, Rick, there are some water-based primers with all this new technology that has come out in the last few years that you can break those old adages that have been taught.
Okay, and oil-based are traditionally great odor blockers. And generally, we use 2 coats of oil-based to lock in things like pet odors or any offensive smells we're trying to eliminate, right?
Those will always work. But the thing to remember with oil-based primers is the cleanup and also ventilation can be a certain consideration. That there's also some water-based products with its newer technology that you don't have to worry about the cleanup, ventilation issues, or anything like that.
Okay, and then what about the top coat that we're going to put on there? Can we put an oil top coat with a water and a water with an oil? I mean, can you mix those?
That's something we've always run across in this industry. I get a lot of, and hear a lot of, I'm sure you have too, but those rules were around because of really flexibility and adhesion issues. But with all the new technology, those concerns no longer apply to us.
That is fantastic.
So here's the one that started it all. It's a real quick dry oil-based primer at a very affordable price point. Just want to remind everyone that it's an interior only product. Rick, do you have some examples where you would recommend this to a customer?
Absolutely, John. You know where it works great is for that customer who has wallpaper on the wall and they want to paint over it. Now, our first recommendation is always going to be to take the wallpaper down.
Sure.
But a lot of people don't want to go through all that work. So if they don't want to take it down and it's in sound condition, we want to use an oil-based primer because the glue typically under the wallpaper is a water-based glue. Mm-hmm. And if you use a water-based primer, it tends to want to reactivate that water, and now the wallpaper is going to lift off the wall.
Oh.
Not a good situation. So we always want to use a oil-based type primer like the Kilz Original. Works perfect for that. Another great application would be for pet odors. Something where you have some offensive odors you're trying to get rid of. Typically an oil-based will 2 coats will always lock those out. and be great for a situation like that. And the other thing is the oil-based ones dry really fast. They dry really hard, making it ideal for baseboards, cabinets, trim work around the house. And it gives that nice, beautiful oil finish for your top coat.
And why everyone likes to really use it for baseboards and cabinets is because this is a very sandable product.
Right. You know, I talked to my contractor buddies out there, and they absolutely love using Kilz Original. They've been using it for years. And what they really like about it when it comes down to doing trim work or doors is after they've applied it, let it dry for an hour, you can sand it. It's very sandable, which means it powders up really nice. Now you wipe all that powder off, and now you've got a really smooth finish. So when you put your top coat on, you just get a glossy, glossy, nice shiny finish.
And don't forget that this product's also available in a very convenient spray can. So all those customers are just looking for a quick prime job, some spot priming, whatever it could be, this is really an easy option for them.
Very nice.
Rick, is it easy to paint a ceiling?
Well, John, actually, you know, that's the fifth wall that we tend to forget about a lot. We got our 4 walls surrounding us. What about the one up on top? Well, that is a tough one to do because you get a typical spray can, and that doesn't work because when you tilt it back to go spray up there, it starts to sputter and spit and won't spray.
Yeah, it's just catching a bunch of air, and it's just a mess.
Right, and then when we try to roll it, well, now you've got to worry about all the spatter that's coming back on you, and it's really tough on the neck and arms to work with a roller for any length of time up there.
And you're looking at moving furniture, plasticking or tarping the whole room to work on the ceilings. It's a lot of work.
Right. So, John, when we have water damage on our ceiling, what do?
Well, we recommend Upshot. First off, it's designed to shoot straight up about a foot. So you don't have to take that spray can and tilt it backward and have sputter everywhere. This one just shoots directly straight up about a foot.
Very nice. And, John, I know you've got a nice little story about the dentist office.
I do. I was just sitting in the dentist chair not too long ago, and I was looking up and noticed that all of his ceiling tiles in that drop-down ceiling were, not the same color. He even had a few water stains. And here he is. He's my dentist, and his ceiling is a mess. So after he got done working on me, I had to ask him, why wasn't he fixing this? And he said that he tried to match the ceiling tiles and couldn't find the right color. A lot of those acoustical ceilings, they're not a bright white. They're toned down.
Right.
Well, Upshot is a toned product that will really help match all those ceiling tiles, cover those water stains, and the easy spray, how it just shoots straight up 12 inches, really makes it for a very easy, versatile product.
That sounds awesome. And by the way, John, your teeth look nice and white.
So, Rick, this is the #1 selling primer in North America. It's very versatile. What I mean by that, it's interior, exterior, and it's water-based. Very important today, easy cleanup, really works very well on light to medium stains. But how would you qualify that a little bit?
Well, John, that's pretty much going to be any of those everyday household, light water damage, light to maybe medium color changes. Our optimum word here is light, nothing extreme. General wear and tear, some scuffing here and there. That's what it's going to be great for.
So really, this is a value price primer that starts to address the sealing, stain blocking, and adhesion categories we had discussed earlier. And it's a primer that just really covers all the majority of typical situations that can happen in a home.
That's correct.
And don't forget, it's low VOC, which really makes it easy to work with.
Super, and it's environmentally friendly. Well, John, adhesion, sealing, and stain blocking. If your customer has some of these problems, maybe all of these problems, or really isn't sure of what problems they have, what do we have as a problem solver for these folks?
Well, first off, what kind of problems are we even talking about, Rick?
Well, those more difficult, a bit more extreme problems around the house.
Like light water damage?
No, now we're talking heavy water damage.
What about, when I'm trying to paint, I have oil-based paint on my baseboards. Would this product work on a slick surface like oil-based paint?
Yeah, when you step up to this quality of primer here now, with the great technology we have, this is one of those that can go right over those old oil-based finishes and give you superior adhesion.
What about flowing and leveling? One of the reasons I know a lot of folks want to work with an oil-based paint or primer in baseboards or cabinets is just for that flow and level of the product and how they naturally do that. Would this primer help my top coat out with that?
Definitely. It kind of acts as what we would call an enamel undercoater where it gives you that nice semi-gloss or high gloss finish that you want to lay down. If you put a primer on like this one, this will help all of that flow and level really smooth and give you that glassy look that they're looking for.
So, Rick, let's paint a picture for our audience here. Can you give us a specific room or idea that you might run across that this product would be ideal for?
Yeah, you know where it gets tricky, John, is you have 2 rooms in the house that you have to pay particular attention to, even more so than the rest. And that would be a kitchen and a bathroom. Can you tell me why those 2?
Well, really the number one used room in the house. So everyone's always congregating in the kitchens, and everyone's, in the restroom at least once or twice a day. And you were cooking in one, the other one we're, showering. We have hair products. We have all sorts of different, cleaning supplies. Those things get on the paint film and can really cause issues when you want to cover them back up or if you want to repaint those surfaces.
Right. And both of those rooms have high moisture, which then leads to mildew.
Which is always a problem.
Right.
And I can't help but think about these homes. Many years ago, everyone had to have a red kitchen too.
Right. That was real popular back then. So with all those rooms, accent walls that have this bright red on there, this is an excellent primer to lock in that old color as they want to get back to the neutrals.
So not only does it hide the best in locking in those colors, but it also, when we look at kitchens and bathrooms, what about that grease stain? Well, are you saying that this will do a good job over grease stains?
Absolutely. And take care of all those issues in the bathroom also. John, this is really the primer that can tackle it all throughout the whole house.
So this primer has superior adhesion, sealing, and stain blocking, and really needs to be your go-to primer as the perfect problem solver for all your customer needs.
Okay, John, I see the name of this product and I'm a little confused. We just talked about the Kilz Premium, and I thought that was the product we said was best for a kitchen and bath environment.
Rick, you're absolutely right, and Premium is a fine product for those areas. But also remember that Premium is very versatile. It's made for many different areas, interior and exterior. And when you get to some of these rooms, like a kitchen and a bathroom, it's best to work with very specialized products designed for those rooms.
I agree.
So Premium, for instance, has a mildewcide package that works very well on different mildews for inside and outside.
What's making this product so special?
Well, it has a very specific mildew package that is formulated for priming and painting these heavily used rooms. With this product, you know you're getting the very best specialized primer for your kitchen and bathroom areas. Low Odor has a very similar performance as original, but you just don't have those lingering heavy odors. Let me explain. We designed Low Odor to have the same benefits of original, that product that works great and does a great job on many difficult situations. But there are people out there that are affected by the odor. And Kilz Low Odor was designed to have the same benefits of original, but the odor dissipates, and it does not linger on for days and days. It is really ideal for homes, schools, office spaces, or anywhere that a lingering odor can be an issue. This is the product that I recommend to my friends and family whenever they need to use an oil-based primer. So remember, Low Odor has all the same benefits of a standard oil base without those lingering odors, and it is much easier to live with. Also, Low Odor comes in a convenient aerosol for those smaller jobs or difficult areas to prime. This is a neat product, Rick, and let me tell you about a friend of mine that just used this. He has a cedar fence and a sprinkler system, and that sprinkler system was spraying water right across that cedar fence, creating these black stains all over it. Do you know what those stains were, Rick?
Actually, I do, John. When it comes out of the fence like that, tannic acid. It's just a natural oil that's found in woods like cedar and redwood, and it's the wood's natural defense against water, rot, and insects. It's pretty harmless stuff, but it can leave some dark, discoloring stains on your substrate. And John, did you hear me say that it's activated by water? So an oil primer would be the best way to fix this problem. And John, what about metals? Metals are prone to rusting. You know, there's a fancy word for that. We call those ferrous metals. Water is what causes those things to rust in the first place, so using an oil primer actually makes sense.
And also, with VOC regulations, oils have become very sparse in the marketplace. Traditional oil-based primers, when you run into those tough problem situations, you need a really good, strong oil. You just can't really do anything better than to work with this product.
And with this one, it's also really great if you have some left over, because you can use it for an interior primer as well.
Absolutely, you can. Rick, sometimes we just need a product for those extreme situations that unfortunately happen. But what I've always heard is that you have to really use a shellac-based primer, those really tough situations.
Well, you're right, John. Traditionally, shellac was the only product that could handle these extreme situations we're talking about. For years, that was the go-to product. But they were very difficult to work with. The odor and the cleanup, the whole thing could be a nightmare. Not to mention how expensive these products have gotten in the last decade.
Well, that's a problem, but what do we really mean by extreme?
Well, let's look at this, John. Unfortunately, some of our customers have had to deal with, let's say, a kitchen fire.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the kind of extreme things we're talking about. Kitchen fires, there's smoke damage now. We've got lots of water damage in there. We've all seen on TV and heard about these people that have like 20 cats in the house. So extreme odors, stains that continue to bleed through oil and water-based primers that you keep trying, and it's just not keeping the stain out. These are the extreme things we're trying to talk about here, John.
So just like that show, Hoarders, is this the kind of situation we were talking about?
Actually, that's probably a good example right there. We look at those shows and go, wow, that's an extreme situation. The smell, the everything, the stains. This is a product now that's going to deal with that kind of situation.
So it's the ultimate primer, really, that just tackles everything.
Yeah, this is really the perfect product for this type of scenario, because it's a water-based primer developed with new technology, and it's actually an epoxy modified water product. Now, if you're not familiar with epoxy, it's a specialty high-end glue or a resin that can handle these extreme situations.
You may have heard, epoxies that are really used for projects like garage floors, where you're parking a car on it. And also epoxies, you have separate parts that you have to mix together with only a certain amount of time to work within it. It's pretty tricky stuff.
Right, and in the past, we would recommend an oil or a shellac-based product to cover odors and any extreme situations like this. But this product works with a modified epoxy that makes it simple to use, just like any traditional water-based product. Am I reading that label right, John? Is this really a clear primer?
That's right, Rick. This is an incredible primer. And what we all know is that primers are all about the glue, and this primer is nothing but glue. No pigment added.
Well, where would you use this type of a product?
Well, how about chalky surfaces? Have you ever run your hand across a cement wall and get all that chalky stuff all over your hands?
Yeah, I sure have, and it leaves all that white powdery residue right on your hand.
So, how would you fix that?
Well, you want to remove any of that excess dust first, then apply the Kilz Clear, and that will lock the chalk into the surface so that your top coat will adhere.
Well, I can understand that. I get that.
And really, another place you might use it is when you're going over a similar color. Let me give you an example, John. A lot of commercial buildings have an accent stripe kind of painted around the building to differentiate one building from another. Repainting that stripe can be difficult if you're using a white pigmented primer.
So if I visualize this, if you put a white primer on this, you're pretty much starting all over again, and you lose that base color?
Yeah, and some colors can take many coats to achieve color uniformity and even coverage. So using a clear primer right over the previous color, it gives you the proper base coat that gives you a head start on that repaint. You'll achieve that color uniformity much quicker than using a pigmented white primer.
Wow. Any other real problems that Kilz Clear can solve?
Well, this product is pretty versatile and can be used over high pH surfaces like fast dry joint compound. Another common problem is recurring efflorescence, and that's really just the salts that leach out of masonry surfaces.
Wow, what an incredible product. So Kilz Clear is an interior, exterior, water-based primer that's a high-performance, fast-dry, multi-surface clear primer developed to seal porous surfaces inside and outside of your home. Many customers, both pros and do-it-yourselfers, come into your stores looking for a primer to help them paint difficult substrates like glossy surfaces, PVC, even fiberglass. We have the solution for these difficult jobs, and it is Kilz Adhesion. The main problem in the marketplace is not a lot of primers and paints will stick to these very difficult substrates, but Kilz Adhesion will. For example, a lot of painters don't have the confidence in a traditional water-based primer when going over galvanized metal. Gutters are especially difficult to coat because of bonding problems. With a product like Kilz Adhesion, your customers can confidently stand behind that job. Kilz Adhesion is the primer to solve difficult to paint surfaces that your customers face every day. This is the go-to product for customer that has difficult surfaces like PVC, fiberglass, galvanized steel, chalky surfaces, formica, tile, and many other glossy surfaces.